Right now, you can smell at least a dozen things without even trying. Laundry detergent, coffee, your own deodorant, the faint plastic smell of your phone case. You don't notice most of it. Your brain filters it out. But for most of human history, smell wasn't background noise. It was survival. And the world ancient humans lived in smelled nothing like yours. It smelled stranger, sharper, and in some ways, far worse. Think about your own morning for a second. You wake up, and before you've even opened your eyes, you've already smelled almost nothing. That's the strange part. Your home is built to be odorless. Surfaces are wiped down, air is filtered, anything that smells too strongly gets labeled a problem and removed. Ancient humans woke up into the opposite world, a world thick with information, carried entirely on air. And their sense of smell wasn't a minor detail of daily life. It was one of the main tools keeping them alive. So, what did they actually smell like? Not metaphorically, literally. If you stood next to an early human 80,000 years ago, what would hit your nose first? Let's start with the obvious one. They smelled like smoke, all the time. Fire was the center of ancient life. People cooked over it, slept near it, and used it to keep predators away. Smoke soaked into skin, hair, and clothing the way it soaks into your jacket after one night at a bonfire. Except this wasn't one night. This was every night for an entire life. Imagine that smell never washing out. Not after one fire, not 100. It builds into your skin the way salt builds into rope left out at sea. It becomes part of your texture, not just your scent. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer groups today, including the Hadza of Tanzania, have documented exactly this. The Hadza spend hours each day near open fires. Their skin and hair carry a constant low layer of smoke. Researchers working with the Hadza, including biologist Alyssa Crittenden, have noted how deeply fire shapes daily life, far beyond just cooking. It shapes social bonding. It shapes safety. It shapes how a whole group smells to outsiders. Multiply that by tens of thousands of years, and smoke becomes part of what a human simply smells like. Not an occasional scent, a permanent layer underneath everything else. Then there's sweat, but not the sweat you're imagining. You shower, you use antiperspirant, you have an entire aisle in the store dedicated to making sure you never smell like yourself. Ancient humans did none of that. Their sweat built up across days, mixing with dirt, animal fat, and whatever they'd been doing that day, which often involved blood, soil, or both. No washing it away at the end of the day, no fresh shirt waiting in a drawer, just the accumulating record of everything a body had done, written directly onto skin. Here's the strange part. That smell wasn't only a problem, it was information. Biologist Klaus Wedekind ran a famous study in the 1990s, often called the sweaty t-shirt study. Women were asked to smell t-shirts worn by different men and rate which scents they found most appealing. The results lined up with genetic markers tied to immune system compatibility, specifically a group of genes called the MHC, short for Major Histocompatibility Complex. In plain terms, these are genes that help your immune system recognize threats. The more different two people's MHC genes are, the stronger and more diverse their potential offspring's immune system could be. In other words, smell wasn't just smell. It was a biological signal, telling people who might make a strong genetic match, long before anyone had a word for genetics at all. Ancient humans weren't aware of any of this science. They didn't know what an immune gene was, but their noses were doing the math anyway, quietly, underneath conscious thought. The same way yours still does today every time you're unexpectedly drawn to or repelled by someone's natural scent. Now think about diet. This one's harder to imagine, because your food doesn't smell like theirs did. You can buy meat sealed in plastic, kept cold from the moment it left the animal until it reaches your kitchen. Your fruit is picked before it's fully ripe, so it survives the trip to your table. Almost nothing you eat is allowed to smell like what it actually is. Ancient humans ate meat that wasn't refrigerated, fish that wasn't on ice, fruit that wasn't picked 2 days ago and shipped across a continent. Food spoiled fast, and people often ate it anyway, right at the age of going bad, because the alternative was going hungry. That meant breath, skin, and even sweat carried traces of whatever had been eaten most recently. garlic-heavy plants, fermenting roots, raw fat from a fresh kill, still faintly metallic on the breath hours later. Your breath after a garlic-heavy meal, the one you might apologize for before a conversation, is a faint, polite echo of what was simply normal, every single day for them. Nobody apologized for it. There was nothing to compare it to. Everyone smelled that way. And it wasn't only what they ate, it was where they ate it. Around the fire, smoke mixing with cooking fat. Near a fresh kill, blood mixing with dirt. The smell of a meal wasn't separate from the smell of the place and the people around it. It was all one layer, built daily, never fully washed away. There's another layer to all of this that's easy to miss. Smell wasn't just personal, it was tribal. Every group of early humans likely had its own collective scent, shaped by what they ate, the fires they used, the land they lived on, even the specific plants and animal fats they used on their skin. Someone from a coastal group would carry hints of fish and salt. Someone from a forest group would carry smoke and crushed leaves. Step into an unfamiliar group's camp and you wouldn't just see strangers, you'd smell them as strangers, instantly, before a single word was exchanged. A stranger's unfamiliar scent could trigger caution before any visual threat was even confirmed. You still do a softer version of this today. Think about how distinct a friend's house smells the moment you walk in, or how unmistakable a partner's specific scent becomes, separate from any perfume or soap they use. You're not imagining that. You're running an old system, one that helped decide who was safe to stand next to in the dark. And then there's something most people never think about at all. Death. Ancient humans lived close to death in a way you never have to. They saw it, they smelled it. Decomposing animals near a kill site, decaying plants in the wrong season, the specific, unmistakable smell of decay, which your brain is hardwired to react to instantly, even now, even if you've never smelled it in your life. Walk past roadkill on a hot day and notice what happens. You don't decide to feel disgusted. Your body decides for you, half a second before your mind catches up. That reaction wasn't built for roadkill. It was built for a world where that exact smell, nearby, on any given day, could mean disease or danger or both. Psychologist Pascal Boyer has written about how deeply this reaction is wired into the human mind. The smell of decay doesn't just disgust you, it triggers an ancient warning system built to keep you away from disease and danger, long before anyone understood what germs even were. Your ancestors didn't need microscopes. Their noses already knew to stay away. This is also part of why certain smells, even pleasant ones, can turn your stomach if they're just slightly wrong. A faint sourness in milk, an odd sweetness in meat. Your nose isn't being dramatic. It's running the same ancient threat detection your ancestors relied on to survive long enough to have descendants. You. So why does any of this matter to you? Scrolling through a video on your phone, surrounded by candles and air fresheners. Because your nose hasn't changed. Not really. You still have the same olfactory wiring that once warned your ancestors about decay, sickness, and danger. You still react to body odor with the same ancient instincts that once helped choose a mate. You still find the smell of smoke strangely comforting, even if you've never sat around a real fire in your life. Have you ever noticed that? A campfire smell on a jacket and some part of you relaxes, without knowing why. Rachel Herz has spent years studying the psychology of smell, and noted that scent is the only sense with a direct line to the emotional sensors of your brain. No filter, no translation, just an instant reaction built across hundreds of thousands of years. Sight and sound get processed first, then interpreted. Smell skips that step entirely. It goes straight to feeling. That's why a single smell can pull up a memory faster than any photo. That's why the smell of rain can feel oddly peaceful, even though rain itself is just water. That's why some scents make you uneasy before you even know why. Your body reacting a full second before your conscious mind has an explanation ready. You spend enormous effort scrubbing out the smells your ancestors lived inside. Soap, perfume, air conditioning, scented candles shaped like vanilla and clean linen, name things like fresh laundry and ocean breeze. All of it built to erase the very world your nose evolved to detect, and to replace it with something calmer, safer, more controlled. Ancient humans didn't have any of that. They smelled like smoke, sweat, blood, and the forest floor. They smelled like exactly what they were. Animals, surviving. not in a degrading sense, in the most literal sense possible. Every smell on their body told a true story about where they'd been and what they'd done to stay alive. And somewhere underneath the candles and the cologne, so do you. Strip away the shower this morning. Strip away the deodorant, the detergent, the air freshener plugged into the wall. What's left underneath is the same animal your ancestors were. A body that sweats when it's afraid. A body that reacts to decay before it can explain why. A body that even now finds a stranger's scent either oddly comforting or quietly unsettling for reasons buried far deeper than memory. You were never meant to smell like nothing. Nothing is a modern invention, manufactured and sold back to you in a bottle. For nearly the entire story of your species, smelling like something, smoke, sweat, food, the people around you, wasn't a flaw to fix. It was proof you were alive, paying attention, and surviving exactly the way you were built to. Right now, you can smell at least a dozen things without even trying. Your ancestors could too. The only difference is, theirs were trying to keep them alive.